Don't you just love Daphne? Over the last few episodes of Frasier, Daphne's really had a chance to come into her own, and this is something we see in You Can't Tell a Crook by His Cover, but I'll get on to Daphne in a moment. The main narrative actually focuses on a card game. This is the 15th episode of the first season of Frasier, directed by Andy Ackerman, and it starts off uh, quite unusually with Martin down at the radio station. Frasier is showing him around, and Roz comes in and reveals that she just gave her last $10 to, I believe, an Australian tourist who said that he needed $10 to get a cab to go to the Australian consulate. And Martin points out that actually that was a con, which, as I'm sure we all know, the people do practice that art of lying, if you like, quite frequently, but Ross fell for it. And Frasier declares that he would know. He would never, ever fall for that kind of con. So Martin challenges him because he's having three friends over for a card game, two of whom are not ex-cons and one is. And Martin makes a bet that Frasier can't tell which of the three is the ex-con. And I love that because you're invited to play the game with Frasier to try and work out who is the ex-con. Now, obviously, depending on what the crime is, criminals come in all shapes and sizes. People spend time in prison for all different reasons, and one could argue there's no such thing as a typical con or ex-con behaviour. But Frasier analyses them. We get to hear his thoughts out loud as he points out the various personality traits or things that these individuals say that might indicate that they're the ex-con. And of course, the real fun is asking, who is the ex-con and can you guess? And I never actually came to a conclusion. I never made a decision about who I thought it was, which I think helps to indicate that you can't tell. Often, I mean, in most cases, you can't tell if somebody is an ex-con, which I think is kind of the point, I guess. So I can't say whether I guessed right or not because I just didn't know. But had I been forced to make a guess, the person I would have picked is not who it was. But that's not me picking somebody out of confidence, that's me literally just picking somebody. But Daphne ends up agreeing to spend time with this person, and Martin is so protective of her. And this is the second time Martin displays a really great supportive personality. In the opening scene, he's really supportive of Roz, telling her it's not her fault, these cons trick everybody, really making her feel like less of a fool for falling for this scam. And he does the same with Daphne, saying there's no way she can spend time with this ex-con and that, she can't be friends with this person because, well, because this person is a criminal. And it's very sweet, but Daphne rightly says you can't say who I spend time with or whom I choose to be friends with. And, well, I won't say any more than that at the moment. I will discuss with a spoiler warning ultimately what happens with that. I have some really good thoughts about it. Well, thoughts that are really positive. And some things were very well shot as well. Definitely a really good episode. Martin was just brilliant. Martin was so fantastic in this episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. And there's a nice moment when he and Frasier are sitting side by side in the apartment and they're just smiling and having a really good time. Mostly smiling at Frasier's expense, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done and really entertaining. Eddie was not in it too much, and Niles was in it a little bit. So I guess spoilers from now. I'll discuss what happens with Daphne. But actually, having said that, I want to share a quote. Well, I won't give you the punchline, but I'll give you the setup so you know which bit I mean. When Frasier asks Martin, don't you believe in second chances? What Martin replies with, I just thought was brilliant. Absolutely loved it. Obviously very well written, as every Frasier episode is. So spoilers from now, I'm going to discuss what happens with Daphne. And the scene with Daphne unfolds around a pool table. And I have to say, it's brilliantly shot. It's really well shot. And Niles and Frasier's role in that part I thought was very well done, very well executed, and it's great to see Daphne holding her own. And we're really getting to have a deeper look in Daphne, who she was, where she comes from, what her life growing up was like. This is something we've seen over the last few episodes, and we get to see it more and more as the seasons go on. But it's really great to see her holding her own and generally putting everybody else down where they've insulted her by making her seem like this, feeble little girl who can't hold her own in this bar playing pool with the guys. And she says, "No, I will show you up," and she does a really great job of that. But ultimately, what happens with that part of the narrative, I thought was perfect and made a lot of sense. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Needless to say, you can't tell a crook by his cover. It's a brilliant episode of Frasier, and one I'd always be happy to watch.